call this meeting to order of the House Finance and Policy Division. Quorum is present. Has anyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I'll make a motion to move the minutes. Mr.
So
Chair.
moved. Any discussion? It's approved. And with that, we have our first bill up on the agenda, which is House File 1007, Representative Fischer.
Good morning, Chair, Committee.
And Representative Fischer, first I understand that you have an author's amendment.
Correct. Do we need to move my bill first before we deal with the
Yes.
author's amendment?
Please do.
Okay, I'd like to move my bill. If I remember, this is for layover, correct? To be laid over?
That's correct, yes.
I'd like to move House File 1007 to be laid over.
Any discussion?
Okay, then I'd like to move if I could, I'd like to move the DE1 amendment.
Representative Fischer moves the DE1 amendment.
And this is to get the bill in the order I'd like it, please.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. Representative Fischer, please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, appreciate the opportunity to present House File 1007. The bill is going to help address lead issues. One of the biggest things that we have in a number of our lower income communities is the prevalence of lead poisoning that happens in our children. The problem with lead poisoning is that it is permanent. Once you have lead poisoning, it cannot be reversed. We have too many children falling into this category, and we have a large number of rental units that were built in the days when they could use lead paint. And so what this proposal is to do is to allow us to make grants to nonprofit and political subdivisions to provide for lead testing and lead hazard reduction. And lead hazard reduction would be encapsulation or removal of lead that is present in the building. The priority, though, would be for hopefully encapsulation, which is very effective. This would be for larger apartment buildings, 12 units or more, where at least half the tenants must have incomes below 60% of median income. For apartment buildings with 11 or fewer units, the tenants must have income below 60% of the area median income. This bill would appropriate approximately $1 million. And I have my first testifier. If we could proceed with our first testifier.
Wonderful.
Mr. Chair and committee members, if you will indulge us, our first presenter had just walked in a few minutes ago, so I will go first, and then Rochelle will go second, and then Tycia Fletcher would go last, if that's okay with the chair.
And Ms. Phillips, if you would state your name for the record.
Certainly, sir. Mr. Chair, committee members, I'm Sue Watlow Phillips. I'm the Executive Director of MICA, the Metropolitan Interfaith Council on Affordable Housing, and Vice President of the National Coalition for the Homeless. I'd like to thank Representative Fischer, Representative Gunther, Representative Moran, Hassan, and Chair Hausman for co-authoring this bill. MICA and Homes for All support this bill. MICA is an interfaith organization working together to be a welcoming community where we treat and love each other as ourselves in the community. Our members are directly involved in addressing the immediate needs of people in our community through outreach, drop-in center, food shelves, clothing distribution, shelter, and transitional housing. We work together to address the systemic causes of homelessness and the housing crisis so that everyone, without exception, has a safe, decent, accessible, and affordable home. Now, you received in your packet the lead-safe poster that looks like this. And then you also received information on your own district in regards to the specific information on the number of units that you have that were built prior to 1978. Plus, you just received a handout that looks like this, which gives you the overall data for the state in regards to the number of units that were built before 1978. Some of you that are younger on the committee were not around probably when we took lead out of gas and we took lead out of paint. But we did in 1978. But we did create a lot of our housing that had that type of paint in it. And so we have about 1 million homes in Minnesota right now with potential lead paint issues that were built before 1978. 359,000 of those units are currently occupied by renters. Landlords need to give renters a notice. It says, yes, there's lead here, and this is what we're doing about it. No, there's not any lead here, or I don't know if there's lead here. And so we have a lot of units out there where renters do not know if there is lead in there and whether their children are at risk of becoming poisoned. Minnesota Department of Health identifies at least 700 children are poisoned by lead in Minnesota every year. It costs us about $2,000 to do the testing for lead and then to encapsulate, basically to paint over lead areas to make a unit safe. It costs us $100,000 per year per child for the rest of their life if they become disabled by lead. Now, I've known Tycia, who will be testifying in a few minutes, since 2011. Her home was destroyed by a tornado in North Minneapolis, and so I met her. She sometimes kids with me about, we kiddingly say that she met me in her pajamas at the Red Cross shelter. And so I've known her children that both were poisoned by lead. Dustin, who is now permanently disabled by lead, the bill is named after the Dustin Luke Shields Act, and she'll talk more about that. As he has grown over the last several years, he has struggled with communicating, interacting, and getting along with others. And sometimes it looks like he's just acting out when he's in the room with you. And really what it is, it's the brain damage that's happened, which is very normal type of acting out when your brain has been permanently damaged because of lead. All of this is caused from the lead, and his family has struggled as they've worked to meet his needs. Now, none of us want our children, our grandchildren, nieces and nephews to be in unsafe housing and to be poisoned by lead. As people of faith, we want to make sure that all our children have the opportunity to be all God created them to be and for our families to thrive. As taxpayers, we've already invested about $1 million into Dustin, and we'll probably invest another $5 to $7 million during his lifetime through disability, through Medicaid, personal care assistance, special ed. Because he was disabled by lead. That was preventable, but it's irreversible as a disease. So if only 10 children each year are not disabled by lead by this bill, this will pay for itself. Together, we can make our homes across the state lead safe. Please pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. And I think you have another testifier.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rochelle Menentopaleska. I'm the Director of Education and Outreach Programs at a nonprofit organization called Sustainable Resources Center. We run 3 main programs: lead education outreach, lead hazard control, and weatherization programs. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you so much for hearing us out. Most of the times we, at our agency, what we do a lot of lead testing events where we identify lead hazards in children, in their blood, by testing their blood. And then when families want us to go out into their home, we identify lead hazards in their home as well by doing dust swipe samples. And then we follow them through, assisting them into grant programs that exist and working with landlords as well as property owners so that their homes will be lead safe. Most homes come to our radar when children test positive for lead. However, blood surveillance in Minnesota is sporadic, and there's no universal testing for children, so many homes are never tested. With the high rates of rental turnover, low-income neighborhoods, incoming families face the same threats over and over again to the ones that there were last. We have a family, and Tycia's family is one example, a family with 4 children. All of them have elevated blood lead levels. A mother said, "We didn't ask about lead. We didn't even think about it, and nobody ever told us about lead." Okay, the family moved twice since leaving from the first rental home, but every single new dwelling turned out to be contaminated. As Sue mentioned, owners of pre-1978 housing are required by federal law to disclose lead hazards during real estate transactions, but the law also gives them an easy way out. Owners can simply claim that they're unaware that lead paint on this property exists, and in most cases, that's the box that they check on the disclosure form, because lead inspectors occur so rarely to test the home. Okay, so that's the easy way out. Unless state law compels them to, property owners have little incentive to test for lead. since finding lead might lead to spending money for remediation. But there are lead hazard control grants in Hennepin County, City of Minneapolis, and now hopefully with this grant, this would also help to help with lead testing and the simple low-cost encapsulation processes and options. What owners of older properties must do by law is provide tenants or buyers with an EPA pamphlet describing how to protect families from lead. But as many of you know, that doesn't always happen, right? If tenants are not native English speakers, in fact, they are not given that particular pamphlet in their local language. I've been working at Sustainable Resources Center for 11 years, and I have seen a lot. I have seen a lot of families struggling with lead poisoning. In fact, we helped Tycia's family through 2 different housing renovations for her family. I have seen after-the-fact prevention respond to the kids who have already been poisoned. So what we need to do is we need to shift our priorities towards preventing kids from being exposed in the first place. Test the home, not the kids. Don't use kids as the lead detectors, okay? A resident can easily test their home. Has everyone seen this? This is a lead check swab. This provides a convenient method to detect lead on painted wood or metal surfaces, on toys, on ceramics. If the little swab turns red, then there is lead present. And the landlord can give us a call, they can give us a call, and we would come out and do free lead testing in their property. Okay. We would have a licensed risk assessor, we have all of that under our belt, and it helped them enroll them into the grant programs that exist. Okay. So ultimately, full risk assessment, simple tests like this can save the day. We provide a report to the landlords as well as the tenants on the areas of where lead is present. So then we can hone in on those specific areas and get the lead out, okay? And not only, this is a win-win, not only will it improve the condition of the home, increase the value of the property, tenants or landlords will continue to be happy, and most importantly, prevent long-term health effects of lead poisoning for children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we have Ms. Fletcher.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Tycia Fletcher. I'm a parent of 2 children, Logan and Dustin Shields. Back in 2010, we moved into a rental unit, and to no knowledge of my own, I didn't know anything about lead poisoning, never heard of it. My son went to his 10th month well check, and it was found out that he had a high level of lead. And since I had 2 children, I had to bring my daughter in to be tested as well. And her level was just as high as his because she was a finger sucker. Since my kids have been poisoned, I have went through so many things. 3 elementary schools for my son. He's developed autism from this all, and I've been telling this story for so long that it just bothers me to keep telling it to the same type of people who could make a change. Dustin has severe behavior problems, severe sensory issues, cognitive speech and language. He's overweight, and all these things happen because of the lead poison. My children were born at when they were born, they were normal at birth. They had no abnormalities at all. They were at perfect weights, and I carried them the whole full term. But to know that my son today is permanently disabled for something that could have been prevented is really heartbreaking. I wouldn't put that on my worst enemy. The thing about lead poisoning is it's just like high blood pressure. You might get a little headache when you have high blood pressure, but with lead poisoning, things change by the year or maybe the months. It doesn't just show up whatever is going to happen to them. My son went through a whole lot of things within the last 11 years of his young life. He had this thing called echolalia, which is where he was repeating everything over and over and over again. And we didn't understand that was a part of him learning, but it was part of his disability as well. So about that, since then, I have spoke on different levels to different people on the federal. I just got back from D.C., talking to Amy Klobuchar and Omar Elian about the issues that we have here. North Minneapolis has the highest levels of lead poisoning, and that's where we live at. Last October, we tested 37 kids. 15 of those kids had high levels of lead. One family in this group of 15 had 3 kids whose levels was over 45, which is really high. Anything above 5 is considered high. And so when you have a child who has a level of 45, 9 out of 10, they'll need medications and going to the hospital. I haven't followed up with the family as of yet, but I've been working with Sustainable Resource Center and Michael for the last 7 years, and Sustainable Resources since my kids were poisoned, which was 10 years. I also participate in doing lead education events, educating families on lead poisoning, because I just feel like if we know something about something that can harm somebody, we should tell them. And we should prevent it from happening to them. And we have a lot of uneducated families in North Minneapolis who just simply don't know. They don't know that their kids may have gotten poisoned. And you wonder why these kids have low reading and math scores, why they have behavior problems, why do they turn into criminals and then end up in prison. Maybe they got poisoned when they was young and the mother didn't follow up. And that's something that we teach our parents, is to follow up when you have been tested. When your kids have been tested, we want you to follow up, because it's important, because things happen to kids when they get poisoned. There's not one kid that I know that has been poisoned that has not been affected. Either it's in school, home, behavior, education, medically. My son has went through all of that. He's severely overweight because he only wants to eat carbs. He only wears short sleeve shirts, and certain things don't feel right to him and don't smell right, certain sounds. Can you imagine not being able to go to a Twins game because you can't tolerate the sound, or you can't eat a certain food because the texture is not right, so you eat only bad food that, make you gain weight? My son is on the verge of being diabetic, and all this is coming from him being poisoned. It has nothing to do with me not being a good mother and not feeding him nutritious food. That's not the case. The case is that he was poisoned by something that was found in our homes. And I really need you guys to really look deep into this, because not only here, but the other 50 states, they have it as well. So we have a lot of kids around the whole world that's being poisoned. But the best thing I can say is that Minnesota is leading this thing, because I am going out to different places telling them about what's going on and how we're helping our kids in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. Minnesota is actually leading the whole 50 states. And we want to keep that. We want to make sure that they follow what we're doing so that they can make their state like ours, which is lead safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher, and thank you so much for sharing your story with this committee, with our community. We really appreciate you. Representative Fischer, well, I guess first of all, is there anyone here in the audience who would like to testify to House File 1007? And then we'll proceed to member questions. Representative Munson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. To Representative Fischer, thanks for bringing this bill forward. I've owned quite a few rental properties in Minneapolis, and so very aware of all the disclosures on lead. And I think that a lot of properties have lead paint on the molding in the houses. I think that's one of the biggest issues, where there's peeling paint, and kids will ingest these paint chips and can poison them. I also had one of the properties I had didn't have painted molding. It was all varnished because it was still original from 1905. But the outside of the house, I had to repaint, and instead of costing $2,500, it cost over $17,000 because they had to build an entire tent around my house to peel the paint and repaint it. It was really expensive, and I know that the outside of houses but most of the houses before 1978 had paint. One of the questions I had on this bill was you're allocating up to 10% of the grant money to administer it. In other words, you're spending $100,000 to write checks for $900,000. and it seems excessively high. Is there a reason why there's the 10% asked for administering this money?
Representative Fischer.
First of all, thank you for the question, Representative Munson. When we were first drafting the bill together, that's the number that we had come up with. And I can't remember if that was coming from the agency or where that direction was. And I was wondering if, and that's just as we're drafting it. And part of it is when I was taking a look, I know that I work in the nonprofit world, and usually when we're doing things in the nonprofit world, we're using about 20% or 25% is where our administrative overhead is. So figuring it was a little bit lower, I think my testimony here can help with that number.
Mr. Chair and committee member, so if you take a look at, I think you're looking at line 1.11 on the bill as amended, up to 10% of the grant may be used to administer the grant and provide education and outreach about health hazards. So it would be in addition to the actual administration of the grant, but also to provide that education to people in the community.
Representative Munson.
Okay, is I know that, every tenant that I have, I'm required to give them the HUD disclosure that educates them on the dangers of lead, and I believe that it's also in multiple languages, but that doesn't seem like there's a shortage of properties we've identified with lead. It's really the lead abatement that is so expensive for property owners and I suppose, for tenants. I was wondering why in this bill that you're limiting, and maybe it was on the original, not the DE, but why you're limiting the tenants, where the tenants have to make less than 60% of the median income, or in order to qualify for the testing, why not all tenants?
Representative Fischer.
This is what it is right here.
Mr. Chair, Representative Munson, if you take a look at the back of the sheet that had the map on it, this sheet that looks like this, and you look on the back side of that, please. You had it in your hand. It's in your left hand. Yep, the sheet with the map, and then look on the back side. Mr. Chair, Representative Munson, so the risk factors for childhood lead, we've had a significant decrease in lead poisoning for people with higher incomes. And people that are into newer homes, where we're seeing the highest risk factors in our older homes and in children in poverty have the highest risk according to the Minnesota Department of Health, and that's why we're targeting the dollars at that income level and below.
Representative Munson.
Okay, thank you. And then in North Minneapolis, aren't the water pipes also lead? And that kind of the easiest way for people to ingest lead through the water lines?
I know that in a number of areas that the service lines coming in from the street are lead. Some instances they are not. That is also another source. I know that is one of the things that we've had discussions on in the Legislative Water Commission, trying to look at it. I know St. Paul does a program where they do work with the locals when they're replacing this water lines in the street, that they'll work with the homeowners to help replace the lead surface pipes going up to the homes. So there's different issues out there, but yes, lead is also in a number of homes' water pipes.
Representative Munson.
Okay, I'm just again.
But, yeah.
Are there lots of funds available for lead abatement for replacing water pipes for the city or for private water lines coming into the house? Or is it just, again, this is just for testing and identifying problems, but not actually?
There's not. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Munson. There's nothing in this bill that addresses the lead water lines because where we were seeing a lot of the problems is happening around the paint issue. As I mentioned before, the city of St. Paul does some grant work when they're doing work in their area. I do not know what the other cities are doing with their water lines at that point.
Okay.
I think my testimony here may have a little more information on that.
Mr. Chair, Representative Munson, so Representative Dean has had a bill on dealing with lead in the water. We actually had that as a part of a previous bill. This bill has been before the House and the Senate the last couple of years, and actually it's made to conference committee and into the omnibus bill and did not move forward. So we have stripped out a number of pieces to make it just very, very simple, that this is about testing for lead in lead paint, and that it's about encapsulating that or doing the remediation of that.
Okay. So it's unfortunate the Governor Dayton vetoed the bill that it was in, but thank you.
Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Fischer, thank you for bringing the bill forward. It looks like a very positive bill to address a very serious issue. And I just had a couple questions in regards to the testing. You showed that swab thing that a homeowner can do themselves, it looks like. What other testing would a professional do out in the site beyond that? Because that looks like it would just test the top layer of paint. And I'm curious about the deeper, people paint over, you might have 10 layers of paint on a wall, and do they have a deeper test then that the professional would go out and ascertain what's below those layers?
Yes.
Okay, and what would the cost of that be just to have it tested in a home?
It really depends on the home and
Okay.
the amount of time that the risk assessor, the licensed risk assessor, is going to be in the home. There are grants that cover the costs, but I would say on average, depending on how large the home is, maybe $500, $600.
To test all the walls
And with the full risk assessment and the use of an XRF gun.
Okay.
Your XRF gun touches the surfaces, gives you a calculation right away, and provides you a full report.
Okay.
Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another question is, so I've been dealing with a lot of asbestos issues in my business, and so I understand the containment aspect of that, which can really work effectively and reduce costs in asbestos abatement. And it's good to know that there's an option here like this for 25% of structures built in my own community. It looks like there's a serious number that need to be checked out. So my question or concern is beyond that, if you're going to contain it, I understand you can do that with the asbestos that my company deals with, as long as records are kept and people know what's below that surface. But then once you get beyond that containment level, the problem is still there, right? So, that maybe it's not maybe in the scope of this bill itself, but it is a next issue, I guess, because it's still in the environment and it needs to be watched over, or you're just pushing the issue down the road a ways. So that's, one thing we'd have to continue to work with.
Ms.
Go ahead.
Yes, okay. So in this full risk assessment report, they will give you options. There are like 3 options. One would say, let's say, for example, the windows or the doors, encapsulate the doors. All you have to do is paint over where all the chipping and peeling paint is present, okay? That's the easiest. That's the low cost, hanging fruit, okay? So that's what families can do, or this grant can offer as well. Then there's the next level of doing a combination. But the full actual remediation, where you're actually getting the lead out, right, is removing the windows or removing the doors, okay? So that's the 3 different options that this full report would provide the landlord. And then if they want to participate in the grants, use federal dollars, everything, they would be able to do that, okay? So yes, it gives you different options that people can choose.
One last comment. There's just the cost of the bill versus the number of afflicted children was a startling revelation. So thank you for that, because it puts it into perspective what this bill costs versus what the future costs will be. So I thank you for bringing the bill forward so we can get to work on it. Thanks.
Next, we have Representative Johnson. I just want to mention we have 3 members on the list. We also have 4 additional bills to get to, so if members could ask their questions briefly, and we can move forward soon. Representative Johnson.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fischer, I want to thank you for this. I do have a couple of things I want to discuss. First of all is on line 1.11 and 1.12. Representative Munson also brought that forward. What we're hearing in a lot of other committees on these grants is that it's not 5, 6, 7% to administer them. It's down to about 2%. I'd much rather get the funding to take care of the issues in the lead instead of having so much that could be used for administration when it doesn't cost that much. That's one issue. The other issue I see on this bill, it is only dealing with renters and tenants and landlords. We have a lot of homes owned by low-income people that have the same issue. I'd like to see this be available for low-income home owners as well.
Representative Fischer, any comment?
I'll defer to my testifier.
Phillips.
Mr. Chair, Representative, again, as I mentioned before, we have brought this bill forward a couple years and did include homeowners in the previous bill. It was pulled out of the omnibus bill, so it never went to the governor's office in the final version of the of that bill last year, of the last 2 years. So again, we have stripped this bill down to focus on renters this time. I certainly, and we certainly do support that. We do have a large number of low-income homeowners, and we work very, very diligently with that population also in trying to make sure that our diverse populations are getting into home ownership. It certainly is a major issue. What we're trying to do is get this bill to actually pass this year.
Representative Johnson. Representative Herr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is maybe just a comment. I'll be really quick about it. Again, referring back to the lines around up to 10% for administration. I just wanted to say, I think this is, all of you are doing a really good job. I used to actually administer grants for the St. Paul Foundation. And the cost to administer grants is actually not cheap. You need people to work, to review the grants, to put criteria together, to follow up with the grants, to issue those grants. It's actually a lot of work. And for you to be able to do this with 10% and then using the rest of that to print materials, to mail materials, to distribute materials, to get them to the right places. I don't know any business for profit that can actually distribute something like that. Their cost of goods would ever be that low. So I just wanted to say to all of you that kudos to you. And this is actually, I think, is pretty low for administering this fund. So thank you so much for doing that.
Representative Sock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll try to make this as short as possible. You talked about the lowest hanging fruit or the easiest way to remediate. Basically, that's really true, but very difficult to actually accomplish in a public scheme. Representative Munson probably, and anybody else that's dealt with these homes knows that the cheapest thing you can do to almost completely zero out the liability is to buy a can of paint and paint everything. Just paint everything. If the house was built before I'll say 70, because I'll give a little space there, because we sort of turned the dial down. But any house built over 1970 has lead in it, is a danger, and will become a problem over time because the paint surface degrades, becomes powder. And for those of you, I'm sorry to make this kind of reference. I know that it's inelegant, but the fastest way for somebody to ingest a drug into their body is through their nose, breathing it. And that's one of the highest ways that lead gets distributed into children, is it's dusting off the walls and they're breathing it in, and it's immediately in their bloodstream. So there are elements here that I think, because we want systems in government, we oftentimes build these great big engines where the best thing we could do would be go down to Sherwin-Williams, buy 800,000 gallons of paint, and have people just paint the house every time somebody moves in. That would take care of this, and it would cost us $5 per gallon rather than, the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And those that have talked about the tent around a house, that is what it costs. It is way into the thousands of dollars to get full remediation. It's an impossible and uneconomic task to remove lead from a property. You're going to cover it up, be able to live in it, and maintain that paint cover. Thanks.
Representative Fischer, final word on the bill.
I just want to thank the committee for the opportunity to present the bill and ask for your support as it becomes part of the omnibus, and I'll renew my motion to have the bill laid over.
Representative Fischer renews his motion that House File 1007 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion. The next bill on the agenda is House File 2542. Representative Hausman.
Mr. Chair, I will move House File 2542, and I have an author's amendment.
Representative Hausman has an author's amendment. Would you care to move the amendment?
I'll move the DE1 amendment, and The delete all is really, it presents the bill in a form that's just easier to understand. The original bill included 3 specific changes to how the state allocates bonds, and the amendment incorporates 2 other items. And the easiest way to understand that is the sheet that looks like this. It shows the 5 pieces that are part of the bill. These 5 items were previously agreed to by key housing advocates and stakeholders. This goes back to 2017. I was not part of that discussion, and so I have a testifier who can speak to it. The bill is in front of the committee today at the request of Senator Weber, who introduced the bill in the Senate with 3 of the 5 changes, and he asked if I would carry the bill in the House. They're consensus items, the 5 on your sheet, the agreements of the Tax Exempt Bond Committee, that are the result of months of meetings and negotiations among affordable housing leaders in Minnesota 2 summers ago. It was in response to a previously introduced bill that did not have consensus. The 5 consensus items make changes to how Minnesota Housing allocates bonds, as you see on the handout, and you will hear more about from Ann Mavity, Executive Director from Minnesota Housing Partnership.
And before we proceed, let's take action, members, on the DE1 amendment. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. Chair Hausman, proceed with your testimony.
Hi, my name is Ann Mavity, and I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Housing Partnership. And as Chair Hausman indicated, our organization was involved in leading a discussion about how to make the tax-exempt bond program more effective and efficient. The tax-exempt bond program provides about $550 million a year to the state of Minnesota and is a key engine for creating and producing new affordable housing. Typically, the tax-exempt bond program works with 4% tax credit, so every dollar of these $550 million that is used leverages additional federal investment and private investment through the federal low-income housing tax program. And so it's an excellent engine. We want to make sure that it continues to work effectively. As Chair Hausman indicated, there was a group of about 15 housing experts that met together with led by my organization, Warren Hansen in the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund, and Ellen Solly with the Family Housing Fund. And that group included the Commissioner of Housing and other developers, for-profit, nonprofit, and government representatives from local governments as well. These 5 agreements are a way to make that program work more effectively and in a more targeted way. And we very much support the amendment that the chair is proposing, and I'm happy to get into detail with any of that if you have questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mavity. And I believe we have another testifier.
No.
Okay. All right. Then we can proceed with member questions.
Okay. Oh, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess there is one more testifier.
And Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I will add that with these amendments, this proposal becomes in alignment with the Homes for All recommendations. And we do hope that there will be some consideration later to ensure that technical amendments that are needed to make sure that this works effectively can be added later as needed.
Thank you. Mr. Baumtrag.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Howard. Members of the committee, I'm Ryan Baumtrag. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Policy at Minnesota Housing. And I just wanted to touch on where Ms. Mavity left off about the consensus proposal and then just some potential issues or concerns that we have with the actual language itself and the implementation of it. So with the DE that's before the committee today, I've sent it to Minnesota Management and Budget and sent it to others at Minnesota Housing to review it to make sure that we can implement it and understand the intent of some of the provisions. As Ms. Mavity mentioned, there's a lot of good policy to limit the scarce resource, to have a priority scheme that prioritizes deeper affordability in projects. So there's a lot of good policy in the bill. We just want to work through the details to make sure that we understand all the intent and that it can be implemented. And one example that I'll give is that there's a provision in the bill in Section 25 that gives local communities more time to issue the bonds at the local level. And should they not issue by year end, those bonds are reserved by Minnesota Housing for that project, but it's unclear what happens if that project shouldn't move forward. And so we just want to make sure that there's a clear intent and that we have a program that can be implemented with the new changes.
Thank you, Mr.
With that,
Baumgartner.
I'll be available for questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience from the public that would like to testify? I don't see any member questions, so I'll move to Chair Hausman for any final words on the bill.
No final words. I think we're just holding this over. Is that, I can't remember what our, what our final decision was. And then,
Yes.
and we'll have some more discussion with the department then.
Thank you. So Chair Hausman renews her motion to lay over House File 2542 as amended for possible inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next bill up is House File 1506, Representative Hassan.
Welcome to the committee. And would you like to move your bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Yes, I would like to move House File 1506 for possible inclusion, to be laid over for possible inclusion.
Representative Hassan moves that House File 1506 be laid over for possible inclusion. Speak to the bill, please.
Good morning, everyone. House File 1506 is appropriation for a community voicemail. In my past life, I used to work for Hennepin County, working with individuals who were struggling with mental health and chemical health and who were homeless. And one of the biggest challenges that we had was after the initial meeting with the individual, finding them after that. There's no phone numbers, most likely, and they may not stay at the shelter that you met them. There was no way, and sometimes you might send a letter, and then you cannot keep the case open long enough for you to know whether they will respond or whether they will get the letter or not. So community voicemail is one of the solutions to that problem. So Open Access has been working with the homeless community, providing voicemail for individuals who otherwise don't have a phone and who are homeless. 93% of the voicemail users are unemployed, 72% of them are homeless, and 25% of them receive MFEP. 1,200 children are benefited by having this voicemail, their parents using this voicemail. Another thing is, if you guys have ever worked with Hennepin County or any of the counties, that we send letters, and if you don't respond back, your benefits are cut automatically. So having this voicemail is another addition to just say, hey, leaving a voicemail and saying that, hey, we sent you a letter, this is what we need from X, Y, and Z, and this is the deadline that you have. Most people that are the voicemail users are people who are looking for housing and who are looking for jobs. And if you apply for a job and your employer can't get hold of you and you don't respond to the voicemail that they left you for an interview, you are not going to get that job. The same goes for housing, because housing is very competitive because there's not enough housing around. 19% of the voicemail users are under the age of 25. 52%. 52% are between 26 and 44 years of age, and 26% of them are between the age 45 to 59, and 3% of them are at the age over 60. 64% of them are people of color, 12% of them are disabled, and 7% of them are veterans. I have here Mark with me, who is the Executive Director of Open Access Connections, who will tell us more about this.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. My name is Mark Erpelding, and I am the Executive Director of Open Access Connections. We are a nonprofit organization that has been providing free community voicemail services since 1994. Each year, we provide the simple, cost-effective tool to approximately 2,600 homeless and low-income Minnesotans. Community voicemail remains an essential communication tool for our most vulnerable citizens. As mentioned earlier, 72% of our clients are experiencing homelessness and 93% are unemployed. What's great about community voicemail is its simplicity. Assigning a community voicemail to a person in need takes less than 10 minutes, and upon completing the registration, they are given a phone number with their own personal greeting that they can immediately put on resumes, housing applications, and give to friends and family. Individuals are able to access their messages through any phone, which is great for so many of our clients because they are constantly on the go. As you can imagine, it's almost impossible for a person in today's society to conduct a successful job search without a phone number. If they are completing an online job application, they are literally unable to submit their application without first entering a phone number. Community voicemail serves as the important communication tool that directly empowers a homeless and low-income person to achieve their housing, employment, and self-sufficiency goals. The importance of community voicemail can be summed up by one of our clients. Of all the years that I was homeless, community voicemail was the only reliable communication tool that I had to reach employers, respond to jobs, communicate with relatives, and receive messages with doctors. This is definitely a necessity if you don't have a landline or a cell phone. I recommend it for anyone that is homeless. Through our business-grade voicemail system, which we maintain in our St. Paul office, we are able to offer community voicemail through partnerships with over 315 Minnesotan and nonprofit government agencies, including homeless shelters, workforce centers, and VA programs. 45 of these partnerships are located in Greater Minnesota. Each partner agency has a staff member that has been trained to use our voicemail system and is given a set of their own community voicemail numbers that can then be assigned directly to their clients. This funding appropriation provides the basic funding for our organization. Approximately 30% of our budget comes from this appropriation. Our remaining budget comes from 10% individual contributions, 10% additional government sources, and 50% from local foundations. Although we are always on the lookout for additional sources of revenue, funding from other government agencies and foundations is increasingly competitive and increasingly limited. The funding appropriation allows us to greatly increase access and accessibility to community voicemail. It enables to facilitate 40 yearly partner agency trainings. It allows us to complete targeted outreach in Greater Minnesota. These activities are incredibly staff-intensive, and it simply takes time to develop and strengthen our relationships with partner organizations. Funding also helps help pay for basic operation and maintenance of the voicemail system. I thank the committee for allowing me to speak upon open access connections in our community voicemail program. Supporting this appropriation will ensure that all Minnesotans continue to have the basic phone access needed to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move to questions, do you have any more testimony?
No.
No, Madam Chair.
Representative Munson has a question.
No, Madam Chair. We stand for questions.
Okay. Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a really interesting program. I imagine it is hard to get a hold of people, and this sounds like it was a good program. But it is 24 years that you guys have been doing this, and technology has really changed and advanced since then. Not just having a phone number for a voicemail for somebody that's important, but it's also important to have an email. So we have programs that, like Google, for instance, that offers free Gmail and free Google Voice. So you can actually get a local phone number through Google for free, and they have voicemail built in for free, and an email address. So I'm wondering, the cost of you serving 2,600 people, and you're only getting 40% of your money through the government, or even if this was 100%, it would be $65 per person for the service. I'm wondering, do you leverage free technology for Google? Like, do you use Google Voice, Google the voicemail, and Gmail for your clients? And then, if so, if not, I mean, why can't we just use the free stuff that's out there now for people?
Mr. Erpelding.
Yep, that's a really good point. The problem or a concern that we have with Google Voice is I was looking at it yesterday. registering as if I was a homeless or low-income person in need. And upon applying for Google Voice, the first thing that they ask for is a phone number that they automatically want to sync with your cell phone. The goal of Google Voice is not to provide service to homeless and low-income people. It's to connect with your main reliable phone number, and as a way to kind of merge all of your data. So for most homeless and low-income people who don't have a reliable phone number, Google Voice does not seem to be the immediate fit. And also, when we're talking about basic phone access, to access the tools provided by Google, you would have to also have regular internet access. Overwhelming majority of our clients that we work with that are lacking reliable phone access are not going to have that reliable internet access that would make Google Voice a viable alternative.
Okay. And then the obvious question is, then if someone's homeless and they have a voicemail, how do they access their voicemail?
Yep. That is through any phone that they may have access to. So it can be a phone that from one of their service providers, or if they borrow a phone from one of their friends or neighbors, they are able just to enter in their voicemail number and then retrieve their messages through any phone. So that is, they will have to find some phone access, but it provides the option to receive those messages and submit those job applications and housing resumes. That's a lot easier obstacle to overcome to just to borrow a phone as opposed to not have a way to receive those messages.
Okay.
Representative Munson.
And I would just recommend that you reach out to Google or companies that offer this free voicemail to explain to them what you're doing and what the needs are for people that are homeless. And I'm sure that a large corporation like Google would be more than willing to remove any barriers that you see in so that people would have access to free voicemail out there in the private sector, because I think that would be much easier to get out to people as opposed to coming to the legislature to set up money for maybe an older system.
Yep. That is a very valid point. We have reached out to Google Voice and other corporations in the past. They haven't been receptive to our requests, but it probably would make sense to approach them again in the near future.
Representative Hur.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And maybe just to work off of Representative Munson's point. So I just want to ask really quick, because this is for a program across Minnesota, and I just want to make sure I understand. Greater Minnesota actually has challenges around broadband and access to the internet. Is that correct? And that something like this would probably be more beneficial for not just the Twin Cities, where we might have a lot of access to Wi-Fi and to broadband access to be able to use the internet, because this is for all of Minnesota. We know that there's challenges for connection around the state of Minnesota. Do I have that information correct? I just wanted to double check.
Mr. Erpelding, I don't know if you're able to answer that.
I can't speak necessarily to the broadband access, but I will say that it is a service that we do make available all across the state of Minnesota. And then we are also always looking to forge new partnerships with any organization that would like to include this service within their programming.
Representative Hur.
Thank you. And I do just want to, I would just want to say I appreciate this program, because we do know that rural Minnesota has less access to tools and resources which allow them to do things via the internet the way we have the privilege here of being able to do. So I appreciate the service existing. The other thing is that I don't know how many people here have tried to set up Google Voice, but I did. And even then, I couldn't get the services, the help. I never got that number set up because of the issues I was experiencing. So I can't imagine somebody with less access and privilege to be able to do this. And I think we all know, especially because we have a lot of people who come from for-profit sector here and understanding that the need for businesses to make a profit. something like this, Google is probably not interested in because they don't make a profit, because they're making their money off of collecting your data by connecting all of your systems together. And since we've already heard very clearly on this committee and many others that anytime it affects somebody's bottom line, they're not going to make money off of it, they're not going to do it. So I do appreciate that you continue to try to work with them. And I think as all of our business people here know, if they're not incented, it's going to be something they'll fight against, which we heard over and over and over again. So I appreciate that you continue to explore this avenue, even though I don't think Google is going to probably be interested in doing this for a small segment, which they're not going to be able to collect any data additional outside of this for them to be able to use and to commoditize. So thank you so much for continuing to do it.
Representative Hassan, any concluding comments, or anybody in the audience? Do we have any other testifiers? Concluding comments.
I just want to say that community voicemail is a way to help folks who are homeless stay connected to job search, housing search, and discontinued funding would allow that not only to exist here, but also to expand in greater Minnesota, and I ask for your support.
And so Representative Hassan renews her motion that 1506 be laid over for possible inclusion. That is what we will do. Thank you very much. Representative Bierman. Representative Bierman, would you like to move your bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to move Bill HF 964, please.
Representative Bierman moves that 964B, and I believe be re-referred to the Health and Human Services Finance Division.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to present this bill, number 964, a bill addressing housing supports for people with mental illness. Where we live matters. Having stable housing allows people with mental illnesses to focus on their recovery and even turn their attention to other goals like employment and education. Unfortunately, people living with mental illnesses are much more likely to experiencing housing instability or even homelessness. Unmanaged mental health symptoms, job loss, inpatient mental health treatment, or an experience with the criminal justice system all increase the challenges that people with mental illnesses face when trying to find and maintain a stable housing situation. Access to housing, and especially permanent supportive housing, interrupts this cycle. This bill increases funding for 3 housing programs: Bridges, Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund, and Supportive Housing. The first, Bridges, provides housing subsidies to people living with serious mental illnesses while they are on a waiting list for federal Section 8 housing assistance. As with Section 8, people on Bridges rent an apartment at the regular market rate and pay 30% of their income for rent. The program provides vouchers to cover the balance. Bridges is administered by local housing authorities or other entities who manage Section 8 housing programs and currently helps 882 individuals and families with a serious mental illness have a home. It's a Homes for All endorsed program. The second program, Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund. With tight rental markets, it can be very challenging for people with housing vouchers and other housing supports to find a landlord that is willing to rent to them. These challenges can be even greater for people with mental illnesses or experience with the criminal justice system or who have poor rental histories. Landlord risk mitigation funds respond to this problem by providing insurance for the landlord. If a tenant on a public housing voucher damages the property or fails to pay rent, the risk mitigation fund can offset some of these costs. Third program is supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing for people with serious mental illnesses connects them with the resources and supports they need, including mental health treatment, to support residents in maintaining their housing. For those with a history of incarceration or treatment in a state-operated facility, access to permanent supportive housing significantly reduces their time in these systems. This is another Homes for All endorsed program. Here to talk more about the bill and the programs Mr. Sam Smith, and then I have another testifier as well, please.
Mr. Smith, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Sam Smith, and I'm the Public Policy Coordinator for NAMI, Minnesota. I'm here today to testify in support of House File 964. Access to a stable home means more than a roof over your head. For people with mental illnesses, having a home allows people with mental illnesses to manage their symptoms, focus on recovery, and make progress towards long-term goals like going back to school or getting a job. Unfortunately, people with mental illnesses are much more likely to experience homelessness. According to the most recent statewide homelessness study from the Wilder Foundation, 60% of homeless adults reported a mental illness, including 39% with major depression, 22% with bipolar disorder, and 13% with schizophrenia or other paranoid or delusional disorders. We need to do better. The first program I will mention is in House File 964 is the Bridges Housing Voucher Program. As Representative Bierman said, this is a housing subsidy for people on a wait list for Section 8. Unfortunately, there are extremely long wait lists and we need to do more. According to the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, thousands of people are eligible for a Bridges voucher and are not getting the support. This includes 2,936 people who are residing in an institution or other segregated setting and will be homeless upon discharge, 2,753 people who are experiencing homelessness and have a need for permanent supportive housing, and 4,345 households experiencing or at imminent risk of homelessness. Current funding levels for Bridges are nowhere near meeting the current needs and are only housing 882 households. Another testifier will discuss the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund, so I would like to briefly turn my attention to the grant funding for permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing is another very effective program for housing people with serious mental illnesses. Permanent supportive housing connects people with the resources and supports they need, including mental health services, to support residents in maintaining their housing and recovery. For those with a history of incarceration or treatment in a state-operated facility, access to permanent supportive housing significantly reduces their time in these systems. NAMI members from across the state, and especially in greater Minnesota, identify the lack of housing for people with mental illnesses as a top issue. That's why investing in affordable housing, the Bridges Housing Voucher, and the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund will be an important step towards building our mental health system and meeting the needs of people with mental illnesses. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I think we'll get the other two testifiers. We do have some questions, but we'll do the testifiers and then we'll move to questions. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chair Hausman and members of the committee. My name is Julie Grothy, and I'm a Service Director of Integrated Services for Guild Incorporated. Guild Incorporated is a nonprofit in the metropolitan area that offers treatment and services to persons experiencing mental illness. And the services that I direct particularly include several supportive housing programs as well as homeless outreach services. I'm testifying in support of House Bill 964 and the importance of providing housing supports for those experiencing mental illness. And I'm speaking before you today particularly in support of the Landlord Risk Mitigation Funds. We all know that Minnesota's housing market is tight with a rental vacancy of around 4.6% statewide, and in some places in the metro area, it's even under 2%. And we know that when vacancy rates are consistently below 5%, rents generally rise because the supply is limited relative to demand. In a tight market, landlords can be very selective in who they choose to rent to. So renters with barriers to housing, and these would include actually having a housing choice voucher or any kind of housing subsidy, or histories of poor credit, criminal involvement, or eviction, have to compete with applicants who have a clean housing record. Without additional incentives, landlords and property managers typically choose those who have a clean record due to the lower perceived risk of damage or non-payment of rent. And additionally, in the housing market, it can be very challenging for those who receive a housing subsidy or a housing choice voucher, the old Section 8, to actually use them. In 2016, only 61% of new holders of housing choice vouchers from Metro HRA were actually able to use them to actually find housing. That meant 40% were unsuccessful and had to turn their vouchers back in. Currently, the metro area in general is approaching a 30% return rate for Section 8 vouchers across all the housing authority jurisdictions. This past year, the federal government allocated $30 million to the Family Unification Voucher Program, which is Section 8 for families involved with child welfare. This past July, all the housing authorities who currently have these vouchers as part of their portfolios could apply for more vouchers if they met the federal utilization rates. Unfortunately, none, not one of the Minnesota housing authorities with these vouchers met the utilization requirements, and it was due almost solely to the reality that Section 8 families are priced out and pushed out of the market due to low vacancy rates. This not only impacts families across Minnesota, but it also impacts our state, county, and city pocketbooks, as it means that federal housing dollars for housing are being left on the table, and state, county, and city dollars then are likely picking up the tab to provide for these particular households. Landlord risk mitigation funds are essentially insurance for a landlord, protecting them against what is perceived as an additional risk of renting to someone who is low income, may have evictions on their record, or may have something in a criminal background. These funds can pay for damaged property, non-payment of rent, or eviction costs. Very often, as seen in a number of communities across the nation who have implemented this type of program, these funds often go unused. They are truly just insurance. The benefits of this program are that it can help us leverage and maximize current housing resources. It also helps us build a larger group of housing stock for people to move into, and it also prevents leaving money on the table and ensures that we can apply for more federal housing dollars. In 2017, $250,000 was appropriated by the legislature for the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund pilot. The funds are being used for landlord guarantees of up to $2,000 per household. The lease must be 12 months. And if there are damages or unpaid rent during the time, the landlord can make a claim for anything that's not covered by their original security deposit or insurance. The pilot projects are currently operating in St. Louis County, in Brainerd, Minnesota, and in the SMAC suburban metro area continuum of care region, which is Washington, Scott, Carver, Dakota, and Anoka counties. Some of the findings to date for the pilot. Housing navigation and support are absolutely critical to the project's success. SMAC in particular has had staff that are especially skilled and with the capacity to provide outreach to the landlords and assistance to the household. All three projects report that additional staffing dollars would provide an increased benefit as households really need help actually finding housing. And the most success is when projects have solid landlord relationships in the community. I can speak mostly to SMAC because that's the area I'm in. We know that they are exceeding their target in terms of the number of referrals. Since the SMAC program began, they've actually had 4 households graduate from the program, which means that they have gone 1 year without any difficulties and have now entered into a new lease with a landlord without that guarantee. And currently, SMAC has 29 households enrolled that are actually housed and another 27 that are searching for housing. In that same period of time, SMAC turned 45 households away, primarily because they didn't actually live in one of those 5 counties. So they were ineligible due to where they lived. As a provider of services and housing to those struggling with mental illness and homelessness, these funds have been absolutely critical to my staff's ability to help individuals with barriers to actually getting approved and finding housing. We have an individual who last August was searching for housing and was unable to find anything due to some things in her legal history, and also because she paid rent late 4 times to a previous landlord. That was enough for her not to actually find one. With these funds, as a guarantee, we were able to house her last August, and I'm happy to report that she is doing extremely well and is set to graduate this summer from the program, and the landlord absolutely loves her as a tenant, and it's going incredibly well. And that is an example of how these funds really work. There are many landlords who are willing to help, and they want to help individuals and families in need. However, they are also business people, and they have to factor in financial issues. These funds simply help us tip the balance towards housing those who might otherwise be turned down. So I strongly urge the consideration to make these funds more available across the state and to consider more assistance with housing support services. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We have one additional testifier, and then we'll go to questions.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. My name is Joan Weatherspoon, and I'm a mental health and chemical dependency case manager with Guild Incorporated on the Coming Home team. I'm here today to read a letter written by one of my clients. She unfortunately couldn't be here due to a conflict in her schedule, but she wanted her story to be heard. She writes, "My name is Katie. I wish to share with you a few things about how programs such as supportive housing have helped transform my life into what it is today. Although it is true that I'm not where I want to be exactly, it is far from where I was before I was fortunate enough to meet someone who helped me apply for a program that would allow me to work with a caseworker to help me with my varying needs and secure safe and affordable housing. Life back then was horrible. I was in a continuous cycle of wanting to get better and to be better, but without resources or knowledge how. When opportunities came up that would help me in some way, the fact that I did not have a permanent address often would stand in my way. I was stuck without any real possibility to achieve anything. I sometimes was put in dangerous situations and dealt with less than positive interactions by many people because I had to. The events that occurred during my homelessness were enough to make someone feel defeated and overwhelmed. But aside from that, they also contributed to a declining mental health problem I could not address even if I wanted to, which I did. Unfortunately, as I found out, no matter how hard you want something, unless your basic needs are met first, it is going to be near impossible to attain it. Having a home now gives me safety and security, a place where I can store food and prepare food, somewhere where I can have mail sent to and keep up on things that are necessary in my life. It gives me a place where I can shower and get a good night's rest, all essential things one must have in order to maintain or build a healthy lifestyle. Some of these things are common sense, but for some people like myself, it isn't. That's why having supportive housing is also really great, because having the help you need when you need it is crucial for recovery sometimes. Every Friday night, my daughter sleeps over, and when her and I go to bed, she holds my hand. This feeling I get to have that is several years delayed would have never happened if it weren't for programs like the one I'm in. She would never have the consistency that she deserves from a mom that loves her if I had continued to struggle with She would never have the consistency that she deserves from a mom that loves her if I had continued to struggle for however long it took for me to break the cycle on my own. I can tell you that I have been trying for years, and while sometimes seemed better than others on the inside, I was losing the fight within me. I was slowly giving up. Today, however, I have some of that hope back. I recently passed the training to become a certified peer support specialist, so I can share the possibility of recovery with others who are struggling. I would have never felt this purpose or been able to achieve it if I didn't have supporting housing laid down as my foundation. I encourage all of you to keep learning what you can about how these programs help those in our community and approve as much funding as you can to support them. It really empowers people to step into who they are meant to be and allows them to take action in their lives. Thank you for your time.
So she reminds us yet again that nothing else in life goes well if you don't have a safe place to sleep at night.
Yeah, and she is an amazing client who is just really took housing and was able to kind of like fit the pieces in there with support from a case manager.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have some questions. Representative Munson, was your question to Mr. Smith?
It would be to the bill's author and to the testifier on the risk mitigation fund.
Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Bierman for bringing this bill forward. This is really I like this program. My question to you is: there's $4 million being appropriated, $2 million to each of the first two programs, and then like a fill in the blank, choose your own adventure on the last one. Why wasn't there any money appropriated to that one, and why is it only for the 2020 year and not 2021?
Madam Chair, Representative Munson, that's a good question. I know there's some discussion about what that mitigation fund would need over time. I think it was reported there were maybe 2 claims thus far in the previous year. So I'm not sure what that funding dollar requirement will be, but perhaps Mr. Smith has some more ideas about that.
Madam Chair, Representative Munson, there is a financial appropriation for bridges in support of housing because it's part of the Homes for All package where we do have a number. However, we left the appropriation for the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund blank with the hopes that we could get whatever the committee is able to offer. But, I think it's a pretty efficient program, and so it wouldn't be requiring a massive appropriation.
Representative Munson.
Yeah, thank you. And I imagine that just putting some money in that fund would, a lot of it's going to be maintained. And I think it's really a great idea because as a landlord, having to deal with somebody not paying rent, or maybe they're going to pay rent, or they lose their job because of a mental illness. It's that 2 or 3 month period of time where they're not paying rent and they have to move out to try to find a new tenant that really, landlords are trying to find the right tenant. So this mitigation fund it does exactly what it says it does. It reduces the risk is what we're all looking to do so that we can lower rents and make access available for everyone. And then on the line 2.2 where it says eligible programs may reimburse landlords for costs, the use of the word may doesn't do a lot to reduce risk. If that's also a may, is it once a tenant is qualified for this program, is there kind of a guarantee that this money will be covered, or is it still kind of a may? Like you can apply for this money if the tenant doesn't pay rent, and is it just if they move out and don't pay the rent, or does it cover them if they have a mental illness issue where they have a lapse in ability to pay?
Yes, thank you. It actually will pay during the 12 months, so it's not just if they move out. And so how the program operates is the landlord has to make a claim, and so we've developed forms where they can make a claim. We do ask that landlords first use security deposits that are paid or that kind of thing, and then we'll pay whatever is left. And a lot of that's trying to make sure that we can stretch those dollars.
Okay, and Madam Chair, just so you're aware, Minnesota rental law actually doesn't allow us to use a security deposit to pay for rent. We can only pay for damages. So we're bound by law not to use that money to pay for rent.
Right. So in that case, we would pay that out of these funds.
Representative Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank Representative Bierman for bringing this bill forward. I think it's incredibly important, and as I've talked this session and during the fall to folks that are dealing with mental illness, without question, the top concern that comes up is housing stability. And so anything we can do in that realm to create that housing stability as that first step is so important. And then I also wanted to follow up on the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund and just make a comment. In our work on the city level in Richfield and the council, we did extensive outreach with tenants and with landlords over the last year or so to discuss, how can we work together to in collaboration to support strong relationships and healthy relationships. And the notion of the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund came up from landlords as a good idea. And we've had some bills that are sort of in the stick mode in terms of our carrot or stick, working with landlords and tenants, and this is, I think, more of a carrot approach, and it's an important one. I think it's an area where we can work collaboratively with landlords, and just based on the feedback from landlords in our community, I think it's something worth our study. And then the one other point I wanted to make is just in the last couple of weeks, I know there was a story in the Star Tribune about Minnesota Housing offering free trainings for landlords in terms of their work and interface with folks with mental illness. And I was really interested to hear about that. And I'm wondering if any of the testifiers would comment on what Minnesota Housing is doing in that realm. It seems like landlords do want and need some tools to deal with or to properly address issues and de-escalate at times, things like that. And so what Minnesota Housing is offering seems like a productive piece in this realm as well. So I just wanted to comment and see if any testifiers had any.
Who might, Ms. Grothy or Mr. Smith?
I have seen that program that MHFA is doing, and it is indeed aimed at helping landlords understand, and it's sort of a basic mental health first aid, if you know of that program. So to help landlords understand how to de-escalate and how to work with somebody. We've actually done a lot of work and have developed brochures for landlords. Sometimes what we find is landlords will feel they're helping somebody by giving them a break over a long period of time, and then bills mount up, and then it gets too much for us to be able to actually help. And so we have developed resources to give landlords so they know who they can turn to or who they can call, that there are crisis teams in the community and that kind of thing. So I think it's actually a wonderful program that they're developing to help landlords understand what resources they have and how they can help their tenants and what they can do to help de-escalate.
Thank you.
Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to say thank you to Representative Bierman for bringing this forward. This is more of a comment than it is a question. That I want to just state that it has not gone unnoticed that when we have programs that allocate money to landlords or to business owners, that we don't question what is the percentage of the funds that are going to go to administering the fund? Who's going to benefit most from this? As I said on property taxes and on housing, it's always disheartening for me to see that on one end, they're getting tax breaks to do certain things. You can write certain things off. You can ask for additional taxes so that you can build in certain places to build housing that isn't affordable. And that we don't ask the same questions and we don't put scrutiny under plans that give money to the flip side. But yet when we give money to support people so that they can actually get into these units, we question everything from the tiniest minutia to really scrutinizing it. And I just want to state that I will support this because I understand that in order to address an issue, in order to look at the systemic problems that affect us in all different areas in society, that we have to actually look at ways to support not just the institutions and the businesses and the people who provide these units, but for the individuals who are trying really hard to be in these units and to be successful in being in these units. And so I just didn't want that point to go unnoticed. And I wanted to just say that I will still support this, even though I don't know how much of this money is going to be used to be spent on overhead. How much is it going to be used to reach out to landlords so that they can actually utilize these things? I'm not going to ask those questions today.
Any further either testimony or I think nothing else? Oh, Representative Hassan.
Madam Chair, it's not a question, it's just a comment. I just want to state that from working with people who have mental illness and who are struggling with mental illness for over 10 years, stability is like the basic thing that they need, and housing stability is a big deal. You can't work with a patient or a client who has, schizophrenia or depression or has some sort of phobia if you don't have a stable housing for them, if there isn't a plan for them to be housed stably, and they can have, a therapist and an arms worker and a case manager who can come and provide those support that they need. I'm happy this bill is going to work with, it's going to provide some landlord support, and that landlords are going to work with, I'm hoping, that they will work with, people who have mental illness instead of just evicting them and putting them on the street, that they will stay housed and get support. So thank you, Representative Bierman, for bringing this forward.
Concluding comments, Representative Bierman.
Madam Chair, I think Representative Hoden just made my closing statement, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And I will restate your motion, which I mistakenly said before, because the bill goes to Ways and Means rather than Health and Human Services.
Oh, thank you for that correction, too.
Bierman renews his motion that House File 964 is referred to Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee.
Is that a motion? Okay, so that actually is a motion and not a referral. So we will have to vote on. We'll have to vote on. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is on its way to Ways and Means. Thanks. I don't see any further questions. We are adjourned.
Thank you.